is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, a MattyB production here on this beautiful October 30th, 2024, the Halloween Eve, or as I like to call it, Mischief Night, right? Mischief Night in the house, 2024. Is Mischief Night still a thing, folks? I know last night we talked about Soap Night a little bit. I know that's not a thing anymore, and I would highly doubt that Mischief Night is a thing anymore in this tight-ass world we live in. But this night, in a lot of ways, especially as a older kid, like 13, 14, 15, was probably more fun than Halloween, Mischief Night. Again, in this tight-ass society we live in, Mischief Night is not tolerated anymore, but boy, did I have some fun memories of this night back in the day. And it was almost like a graduation, coming of age, when you were invited to go out on Mischief Night. As you're growing up in a tight tribal neighborhood environment in the 215, you had to kind of earn your stripes. You're a little kid and all that, and you kind of graduate up through the ranks, and before you know it, they're asking you to go out on Mischief Night, and before you know it, you're asking other people to go out on Mischief Night, as that has come full circle, and you're the elder of the tribe. But yeah, Mischief Night is in the house, and I hope everybody's enjoying their Mischief Night, or more importantly, their Halloween Eve, if we want to kind of leave it on that tone. I'm having a great night, and it's great to be back here. This will be the final broadcast of the Final Word for the week. Tomorrow night, I am on the postgame on the Clear the Ice with the Flyers and the Blues, so there will be no Final Word tomorrow. And seeing how tomorrow's Thursday, that will wrap up our broadcasting week tonight. And it was a fast and furious week, a short week here on the program. Did not have a show on Sunday night because I was doing the postgame on that night as well. But I was able to cram in a couple episodes, and that's really all that matters, is delivering the content to you. Delivering the content to the tight-ass civilization that we live in today. And I am the proud ambassador of that tight-ass civilization. So I remind everybody that this program and everything else, the 5 programs that we have here on the network, are brought to you by the network, It's a Wrap Sports. And please, as of right now, we don't have any sponsors. Nobody wants to pay for this. I don't know why, but nobody wants to pay for it. So all I ask for is a like and a subscribe to our network through our YouTube channel, so we can keep kind of growing this thing. And perhaps one day somebody will actually pay me money to do this, which would be an amazing feat. But you know what? Again, in this tight-ass world we live in, anything is possible, so dream big. On the show tonight, we got your day in Philadelphia sports history, kinda. Because there's a couple things that are conflicting on this day in Philadelphia sports history, and I'll explain in a second. We got a World Series check-in because after last night's rejuvenation, return to life, the New York Yankees won the game last night 11-4, and now they're actually making this, I don't know if they're going to make it a series, down 3-1. I don't know when do you classify the Yankees being back in the World Series. If they win tonight, does that classify them being back in this thing? They would be down 3-2, but also heading back to Los Angeles. But currently right now, in the, I believe, the 4th inning out there in the Bronx, it is, bottom of the 3rd. Sorry, bottom of the 3rd. It is 4-0 Yankees, as they are attempting to push this to a Game 5 and send it back to Los Angeles for said Games 6 and 7. I'm sorry, not pushing for Game 5. This is Game 5, excuse me. Pushing for Game 6 and Game 7. We're going to talk a little bit about the very minute about the Eagles-Jaguars, and maybe not so much Eagles-Jaguars, because I do want to jump in on some Eagles talk as it pertains to their return to glory, or their return to Super Bowl providence, or their return to competitive football. And we're not going to really get into the Jaguars game, because we'll save that for Friday. Friday, programming note, by the way. Friday at 6 will be the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn this week. Again, scheduling conflicts arise, and we have to be fluid. And on a network that only has about, as I mentioned, 5 shows and only 1 static show, we have the liberty to kind of move things around the old dial. So Kyle's going to come back on Friday at 6, and we'll talk Eagles, Jaguars in depth. We'll also go through our review of the Bengals game in depth and get you ready for the football game on Sunday. We're going to do a little bit of Flyers talk. I released a couple videos today on the network, somewhat highlighting some of the highlights from last night's Boston Bruin game. The one goal, the Tyson Forrester goal, and then the understated or underappreciated performance of Sam Ersson, I think, in a 2-0 shutout against, a struggling Boston Bruins team. A team that's definitely maybe, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're past their prime, because I say that every year, and every year they win the President's Trophy. So I'm not going to say that, but definitely a struggling Boston Bruin team at this point. But the Flyers, who are struggling in their own right, handle their business against a consummate NHL Stanley Cup contender. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Flyers game and maybe talk a little bit about the St. Louis Blues. We got our prospect of the night for the Flyers tonight as well, because we don't. It's not in season to talk about Phillies prospects right now. We're also going to go a little deeper into the MLB free agency thing. One of the biggest disappointments from last night and the Dodgers not winning the World Series was I had to wait another day for potential free agency to start. Well, with tonight's game kind of trending at this point in the Yankees' favor and another potential Yankees win, that means we got to wait another 2 days at the minimum for the start of MLB free agency. So was really hoping to get that thing rolling, obviously, for obvious reasons, right? So we'll get maybe a little bit in-depth more about my targets on free agency. We talked a little bit about who I kind of would like to see here on the position side. Let's talk a little bit about the pitchers tonight. I think the Phillies need to address a few things. Obviously, the number 5 starter and some bullpen reconstruction. It might be in order for the Phillies. So we'll talk a little bit of MLB free agency. And, of course, my favorite segment of the entire week, my sports card, or MattyB's card review, where we take a card from my collection, my sports card from my collection, and we just chew the fat and talk about the card a little bit and kick things around and have some fun with that. So let's get things rolling here on the program with your day in Philadelphia sports history. As I said, I was conflicted by about what this nugget of information should be, because there's only one significant moment of note that occurred on this day, October 30th, but there's a very significant one that occurred tomorrow on October 31st. So I went back and forth. I balanced the goods and the bads, the pros and the cons, and at the end of the day, I came up to the conclusion, you know what? I'm not going to have a show tomorrow. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to talk very briefly about both of them, so as to cover both my bases. Now, a long time ago when I was doing this bit on the Talking Philly Sports with MattyB program, I made a promise to report the actual event of the day, regardless of what that event was. If it was boxing, if it was midget wrestling, if it was dwarf tossing, whatever the case would be, I would have to talk about it. And so I am going to stay to that. But I'm also going to add in the moment that occurred tomorrow, because, and I justify that, of course, by saying that I don't have a show tomorrow, so I can get away with it. So here we go. Your moment, or your day in Philadelphia sports history. On October 30th, 1980, Wilt Chamberlain and Julius Erving were named to the all-time NBA team. Now, the NBA, as we know, does a team of the year every year. They elect I think it's 8 players or so. I think it's 5 and 3 bench players to an all-time team of the year. Team of the year, right? Well, in this day in 1980, they named their all-time team. And Julius Erving and Wilt Chamberlain were both named to it. Now, of course, in 1980, Julius Erving was still an active player, and he was the only player on that all-time NBA team at that time. Of course, I believe things have changed with the advent of certain other players that have come into the league, but Julius Erving was named to the all-time NBA team as an active player, joining Wilt Chamberlain, joining Jerry West, joining Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who I believe also was active at that time, John Havlicek, and others, Oscar Robinson, and others on this team. And an honor, of course, much deserved by both Sixers legends. And the all-time NBA team was named also that year, and that was the 66-67 Sixers. So A big night in Philadelphia basketball when it came down to the all-time honors of the NBA. The reason why they decided to name this team at this point was in order to celebrate the 35th anniversary season of the NBA. At that time, of course, this is 1980. So there was your moment of Philadelphia sports history on October 30th, 1980. Julius Erving and Wilt Chamberlain were named to the all-time NBA team. So that was the first nugget, and then now gets me to the meat of the situation. The moment that occurred on Halloween. October 31st, 2008, folks. That's right. Do I got to continue on? Do I got to talk more about what happened on this day in October, on October 31st, 2008? What was it? 10 million, 2 million, 1 million? How many people crammed their asses on Broad Street to watch the Phillies go up it, holding the Commissioner's Trophy for the champions of the world of baseball? And I said this the other night when we talked about the Phillies winning the World Series. I think it was last night, actually, wasn't it? I don't remember if it was last night or the night before. It was one of those nights where the Phillies had just won. It was the anniversary of them winning the World Series in 2008. I told you I was watching this I watched the game in Iraq. I was deployed at the time. So obviously I was deployed on this day as well in 2008. So I didn't get a chance to go to the parade. I made up for that, though, by going to the Eagles parade in 2017 or 2018. But I did miss this parade. I was present in the 80 parade. Not in the parade. I was there. I wasn't like on the float or driving on the truck or chugging beers in the crowd at 7 years old. But I was there in the crowd. But I did miss this parade. And I was present in the for the Sixers 83 parade. I was also down on Broad Street for the 83 parade. So in all my life, I have been privileged to be alive during, I guess you would call it, the most successful era of the last 51 plus years of Philadelphia sports when it comes to championships. I was born the year the Flyers won their first of back-to-back cups. So no, I was not being held aloft of the crowd on Broad Street when the Flyers went up it 2 straight years. I obviously wasn't present there. I was discovering my hand. So, priorities. I was there in 80 with the Phillies. I was there in 83 with the Sixers. I was not there in 08, but obviously I was around in 08. And, of course, in 17 with the Eagles. So I've actually had, I guess you can kind of take the positives out of our torturous existence as Philadelphia sports fans, is that, in my case at least, I've been present for most of their glory and experienced most of the championship glory. The little that it is, but I've actually had the privilege to be part of a lot of it. So on this day in Halloween, not on this day, but tomorrow, Halloween 2008 was perhaps one of the more banner days in Philadelphia sports history, where Chase Utley uttered those immortal words of "world effing champions" as he looked around the crowd at Citizen Bank Park. And indeed they were, folks. Indeed they were. So there you go, a double nugget of information on your day in Philadelphia sports history. October 30th, 1980, when Dr. J and Wilt Chamberlain were named to the All-NBA team. And October 31st, 2008, Phillies parade down Broad Street celebrating their 2008 World Series championship. And there you go. That information or that segment was brought to you again, of course, by the good folks over here at It's a Wrap Sports. Please like and comment, or like and subscribe our page. We need it. Barbara checking in. Barbara. I'm watching games. Glad Flyers won last night. It was wonderful. Barbara, it was very wonderful. The Flyers, who needed that win, needed a win against a team that had some meat behind them too, don't you think? I mean, with that win, I'm not going to say that the win would not have mattered less if they would have beat the Anaheim Ducks, or if they would have beat somebody like that or lower level like them. But beating a team like the Bruins, even though they are struggling, even though they are somewhat maybe have reached that moment in their history where they're starting to feel their own age, but still, that team is a perennial. It's a perennial Stanley Cup not champion, contender. So going out there and not only beating them, but beating them and shutting them out was very impressive. But as I broke down on my videos today, there are still a lot of concerns with this hockey team. The offense is still extremely anemic. And I don't know if the offense can be fixed with what we have here in town. A lot of people, and we've talked about this in nauseum throughout the week, I'm hearing the calls for John Tortorella's head. Again, Barbara and everybody else out there who might be listening or paying attention or caring, you tell me who else comes in here and does a better job. And I'm being honest, because I don't know, one, who would want the job, because I don't want an up and coming. I don't want someone who's trying to make a name for themselves. We are not at that point in this whole thing for that. I need an established NHL guy, a guy who knows what it takes to build teams and to win with teams. And right now, for good or for bad, John Tortorella is the best person. If he wasn't, he would not be here right now. Don't forget, and I'm lost in all of this, John Tortorella was not a Danny B hire. Chuck Fletcher hired John Tortorella. So there's no love lost there. Now, Danny B was the assistant GM, but he had nothing to do with hiring Tortorella. So there's no love lost between John and Danny. So Danny's not trying to save face with this. He's got no skin in the game, man. It's not his coach. So there's a reason why John Tortorella remains here. And I think it's the right answer. I really do. We still need a John Tortorella because we don't have a foundation of a team yet. We got kind of a foundation, and I thought it was a little bit more. I mentioned this last year a lot on the post games, and I mentioned it with talking with Jim Jackson and talking with other Flyers people out there, that I thought one of the great byproducts of last year was establishing a foundation, both on and off the ice. Repairing the culture, repairing the damage that was done by the previous regime, and how out of touch they were with the fans and how out of touch they were with being a Flyer. So that was a huge part of rebuilding that foundation, right? But there's also a big part of rebuilding the foundation with the goddamn team. And I thought going into this season, or based on what happened last season, that was a positive step in the right direction. Through 10 games of this season, I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel necessarily that we do have the right foundation of players here. I think we got some pieces, but I don't know if we have the foundation yet. Matthew Michkov is a great piece. Cam York is a great piece. Tyson Forrester, for all you Forrester guys and gals out there, which I am not, is a good piece. Travis Konechny, I'm not buying the contract, man. I never thought the contract was. I didn't think it was a good contract to be given to him. So I'm not going to add him into this. But there's some pieces here. But whether or not they're foundational pieces, whether or not you can say, okay, Tyson Forrester, Owen Tippett, Joel Farabee, Cam York, Jamie Drysdale, Matthew Michkov, who am I forgetting? Morgan Frost. You guys are the ones we're going to start building the house on, we're going to start building the championship thing on. I don't know if that's correct. I don't. And with the salary cap issues, with the problems of trying to buy their way out of this, which they can't do this year or even next year. It changes things because there's no end in sight with this. It's going to be these players developing in time and becoming into their own, but we're in year 3 of this. This is not year 1. This is year 3 of Tortorella and essentially year 3 of the rebuild, because even though they weren't publicly saying it in year 1 of Tortorella, it was a rebuild. It was. Come on, let's call it what it was. And so we're kind of 3 years into these younger players playing. And I'm not sold yet. I'm not sold on a lot of them. I think Joel Farabee is stealing money from the Flyers, being paid $5 million a year for nothing offensively. He's been in a slump pretty much for the last 2 years. Jamie Drysdale, well, he's your prototypical 21st century defenseman. He's an offensively minded defenseman. He's going to be what he is defensively, but he's not here to be a defenseman. He's here to be a power play quarterback. He's here to kind of kickstart the offense, which he will do if given the right forwards to work with, which he doesn't have right now. So that we can make a case for a lot of these players. But last night, in beating the Boston, most of the Celtics again, but in beating the Bruins, it was a good step, but that game still highlighted and spotlighted some of the Flyers' problems. The offense, man. The offense is other levelly anemic. They're averaging a little bit over 2 goals a game. Last night in the Tyson Forster lone goal, the lone goal of the game, if you watch that goal, and I put in a video about it, it's a pretty goal. It's a pretty shot. Forster did what he did, and it was nice shot on net. But look at where he took the shot. Look at where the Flyers' offense is centered around when they attack. It's all perimeter, man. It's all from the dot out. There's nothing happening in front of the opposition net. And it's not scheme, I don't think. I don't think Tortorella's telling them, don't go to the net. I don't think Tortorella's telling them to not do that. It's just the Flyers don't have those type of people. And I'm not saying you build an entire team like that, but you do have to have a balance of players who can play the perimeter and are perimeter type players. And you have to have players that can go in front of the net. We've seen Mitchkov does not play in front of the net. He plays to the side of the net. He plays off into the slot. He plays up around that lower perimeter, but he's not a net player. Sean Couturier, as I did some videos last week, has been playing some of that net style offense. But really, other than him, I don't know who else is doing that on this team. And again, I don't think it's scheme. I think it's personnel. And I just don't think the Flyers can win the ultimate prize until they develop a team that can go more to the net. And in that Forrester goal, here's the thing. He doesn't score that goal. 1, he's not in front of the net. He's out beyond the dot. And 2, there was nobody in front of the net to kind of scoop up the rebound. Everybody was playing back off. And it was all 5 players. Nobody was crashing the net. So it was a very positive win. And the performance of Sam Emerson was definitely promising. But it was still concerning because of how they are operating as an offense. And I just have concerns about that. They were more of a attack, quick, decisive team last year than they are this year. And I don't know why that is. I don't know where the disconnect is. It's the same people. It's the same coaches. But it's a different result. So, good win. Absolutely. Let's see if we can carry that on until tomorrow night against the St. Louis Blues. Like another team that's struggling a little bit, 500 going into the game. Let's see if we can kind of keep that good times going against the Blues on Halloween night. Anybody going to that game tomorrow night? I've never been to a professional sports game on Halloween. I've worked one before, but I've never been to one. But just a cool vibe. But yeah, so I don't know, man. Flyers are what they are, and we're 10 games in. We'll keep chugging along, but as I said, I'm having concerns that we may not have the foundation players that we thought we did heading into the season. So there's my Flyers 2 cents, and let's go back and check in a little bit on the World Series. No, it's now 5-0 as the Yankees are putting another run on the board here in the 3rd inning. 5-0 as the Yankees are no-hitting the Dodgers through 4 innings. Judge and Chisholm have hit home runs for the Yankees, and Stanton has just gone deep in the 3rd as well. So the Yankees, because of 3 home runs, have built a 5-0 lead as they look to unceremoniously piss me off and take this thing back to L.A. for Game 6 on Friday, which would suck, man. As I said, because it's prolonging the inevitable. It's prolonging the start of the MLB free agency period. It's prolonging my road back to recovery, my road back to caring about what's happening on a baseball diamond. It's prolonging that, and I hate that. So, but we're going to talk about MLB free agency anyway because I'm tired of waiting. Let's talk about it. So. Heading into tonight, as I said, the Phillies are waiting, and so is everybody else, for the end of the World Series because MLB free agency starts 24 hours after the completion of the World Series. Or I should say the MLB legal tampering period, which was when teams can start negotiating with all kinds of players, their own players and anybody else. They can just go right into negotiations 24 hours after the World Series. They cannot sign anybody physically until 5 days after the World Series, but they can start negotiating tomorrow. With play, or not tomorrow, but 24 hours after after the World Series. And by the way, breaking news, the Sixers just lost to the Pistons. Oh, man. And you wonder why I don't talk about the Sixers. Sixers are a mess, man. They are a friggin' mess. They lost to the Pistons by 10 tonight, 105-95. Man, amazing. Anyway, getting back to something, I guess, more positive. So they can sign players 5 days after the end of the World Series, but they can start renegotiating with players 24 hours after the World Series. So the Phillies and everybody else is probably have already put together their boards and are pretty much looking at what they're going to end up doing here in free agency. And, of course, here in Philadelphia, amidst an unceremonious exit from the MLB postseason where a couple of weaknesses shone bright with this team, we are going to enter this free agency period maybe not so much excited about going out and adding new talent, because we got mixed results at the end of season press conference by saying that we like our team, we like our players. Now, they didn't go as far as they did last year by pretty much saying we're going to run it back. He didn't really go that far. He left the door open, Dombrowski did, but of course he's bringing back the same manager, and that's a problem for me. It's a huge problem. Straight across the board, because I don't think Rob Thompson's a good manager. It has nothing to do with that. I just don't think Rob Thompson's a winner. And I don't think Rob Thompson knows how to win on the biggest stage. And he's proving it year after year here. And I don't like the way Rob Thompson manages. Just don't. I don't like the way he does it. There's a few things that boil my biscuits, man, with this guy. And the first thing I guess we can jump into with MattyB's free agent targets, because we've talked a little bit about the position players, so I'm not going to I'll get into them a little bit, but I'm not going to get into them deep. It's got to be the bullpen for me, is really, other than the positions, right? The bullpen, shining bright as a major weakness on this team. You might be thinking to yourself, MattyB, what the hell are you talking about? The Phillies had a great bullpen. They did, collectively, for about, the regular season. Then something went wrong in the postseason, and you know what? You cannot wish that away. And for those of you out there who fall on the that's baseball sword, let me remind you of a great establishment that's eager to cater your business needs. Big Al's Excuse Emporium. It's been serving the greater Philadelphia area in all of its Philadelphia sports excuse needs since the summer of 2024. Look them up in the Yellow Pages. Is that a thing still? Is the Yellow Pages still a thing? Look them up on the Yellow Pages, because Big Al and his staff are standing by today, ready to service you, because you cannot deal with the reality of the situation. So they have every excuse that you may possibly need to get through your day. I just don't like the way the guy manages, and I don't like the bullpen. The bullpen situation, I spoke about it since March, not because of the arms we had, but because of the way the bullpen was constructed. The bullpen by committee. And it's been so nice. One of the great things about the Philly season ending for me was I could stop talking about that. I could stop talking about the bullpen by committee. I can stop talking about RISP. All of those things that just annoy the living snot out of me about this baseball team. I could stop talking about. But here we go. We're firing it back up, because free agency will start eventually here when the Dodgers put the Yankees down, which might not be tonight. But the bullpen by committee stuff, I said it in March and I echoed it throughout the season. It was going to be the undoing for this team. And everyone's going to, and no one's talking about that. We're just talking about the mystical disappearance of talent and arm strength from Jeff Hoffman or Ryan Kerkering and so on through the postseason as some sort of magical ailment that occurred and they all of a sudden forgot how to pitch. No, it's not that. That's not the reason. They failed in the postseason because there's no defined roles in that bullpen. There's none, not a one defined role in the bullpen. And you're never going to win a World Series like that. And I don't care who you think you are and what you think you might know about baseball, because people who want to kind of fight me back on the bullpen by committee stuff, they're the same people who tell me that baseball players are creatures of habit. They're the same people that pushed back on me during the season when the implosion was occurring and things were not going right and things were obviously not right with this team. They kept on saying, that's baseball. Or what's I don't want to pick on him, but I got him in because he provided so many nuggets this year. Al would say to me, in baseball, success and greatness is measured at 30%. And he's right, but that's it's excuses, right? It's excuses. But yet, I'm not saying Al was anti. He didn't like the bullpen by committee, but people will tell me that the bullpen by committee is fine. It should have no bearing on anything. But then they'll tell me on the other side of their mouth that baseball players are creatures of habit. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either they're creatures of habit or they're not. And with a bullpen by committee, how can you be a creature of habit? Because you're being used in different roles every single night. And that does affect a pitcher. At the most, I mean, those players are probably the most affected by that, by not having a routine. It's the pitchers. Their life is a routine. Their pitching is a routine. Everything that leads them into a game is a routine that they do every day in order to prepare themselves. So when you don't have a defined role in the bullpen, when you don't know what situation you're going to be called in to deal with, it affects with your psyche. And yes, baseball players are creatures of habit. So heading into this offseason, the Phillies are looking at potentially having to retool the bullpen because they have a couple free agents. Jeff Hoffman's a free agent, and so is Estevez. Another great trade deadline move by your fearless leader, Dave Dombrowski. Both of them are going to be free agents. I say let them go. I say it's time to let them go. Jeff Hoffman's a great story. Allegedly, Bryce Harper handpicked him. Again, if you listen to Big Al and the way he draw, I didn't mean to pick on Al tonight. This was not, I wasn't going into the show that way. But Big Al maintains that Bryce Harper handpicked Jeff Hoffman for the Phillies based on Jeff Hoffman throwing him batting practice while Harper was recovering from Tommy John. So, great story. A great news story. But the bottom line is Jeff Hoffman's going to want to get paid. And I don't think the Phillies should give him what he wants because I just don't think he's proven yet because I don't know where Jeff Hoffman fits in this bullpen. He obviously failed in high pressure. And I think we have enough lower leverage people. And that's another thing I want to stop using when it comes to the bullpen. I don't want to talk about high leverage or low leverage. I want to talk about middle relievers, long relievers, setup guys, closers, the way it's supposed to be talked about. So Jeff Hoffman, right now, I wouldn't trust him as a back end of the game kind of guy. He proved in the postseason he wasn't ready for that. Same thing with Ryan Kerkering. Now, Kerkering is not a free agent, but I didn't trust Kerkering's stuff in the back innings of games this year. I didn't trust his stuff throughout the season. Kerkering is a middle reliever, and that's right now what he is. And that's fine because I need middle relievers. Estevez, just to me, I never got comfortable with him. It's a little bit too herky-jerky for me, a little bit too up and down. I need a closer, and I just don't think he's the guy. So I'm prepared to say goodbye to both of them. Now, who am I wanting to replace him, if you ask? Well, let's get right to that. I think the Phillies should be targeting two players currently about to be free. So let's just kind of go this route. Let me give you my bullpen of 2025, my revamped Phillies bullpen in 2025 with roles, defined roles on this team. I have 8 players, actually. I'm going with an 8-man bullpen this year, by the way, folks. Yes, that's right. Eight pitchers in the bullpen. My long relievers, which are my first through fourth, maybe fifth, first through fourth inning guys, are Ruiz, Kerkering, and Mick freaking Abel. That's right. Those are my long relievers. I think those 3 individuals can do the job of a long reliever. Right now, I just don't trust Kerkering anywhere else. Maybe that changes as the season rolls on, and maybe he elevates himself to middle relief. But right now, until Kerkering can identify himself as a pitcher, can find his comfort zone as a pitcher, I think he's best served in a long relief role for this team. Mick Abel, for hell or high water, needs to be somehow attached to the Phillies next season. Just out of principle, goddamn. If not, he'll be 6 years in the minor leagues for a former first-round draft pick. It's time to find out if Mick Abel can sink or swim. I'm not telling you to put him in the rotation, but you can because you're going to use him as a long reliever. So those are my long relievers, all in-house type guys, right? All in-house, don't have to go out and sign anybody. But those are my my long relievers. My middle relievers are 3: Banks, Strom, and Alvarado. That's right. I am demoting Alvarado down to middle relief. Now, specifically, I'm going to have Alvarado as my 7th inning guy. He is my setup guy to a setup guy. I am going to use him in the 7th inning. Now, Strom and Alvarado can be flip-flopped in situations that they need to be flip-flopped in. But they're basically pitching in the same situation. Middle, well, not middle, but kind of like later in the game. Late middle, right? So I think that's where they both are served best at pitching and in those roles. Now, as far as my setup guy and my closer, they're currently not in-house. I like Jake Junis and Kaylee Jansen. I like Junis as my setup guy, and I like Jansen as my reliever. Jansen's been a reliever. He's been a reliever in Boston in a traditional relief bullpen. Junis has got reliever abilities, but he can be a closer too. I think if you go out and you add those 2 free agents, that's all I want is 2. 2 free agents, Junis and Jansen. Those are my relievers. Those are my back-end guys. Those are my setup guys and my closer. And I think our bullpen would be severely changed for the better. Now, the other side of this thing, the starting rotation, the other problem that we're going to kind of roll into is who is the 5th starter? You got Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and Sanchez are my 4. There's my 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, there's some question marks. After you get past Nola, the Philly rotation's one big question mark. What is Ranger Suarez going to be in 2025? Was it an injury that plagued him, or was it something more? So we have no choice but to kind of roll the dice with him. Christopher Sanchez, can he replicate what he did in 2024? So there's a little bit of a challenge there, a little bit of a gamble there. But we have no other options. As my 5th starter, I like either or James Paxton from the Red Sox or, of course, Andrew Painter. The best scenario would be Andrew Painter, but I'm not necessarily sure that Andrew Painter starts the season with the Phillies. I would be highly impressed if that was the case. I think Painter starts either in AA or AAA if all goes well. He's had a decent fall league. He's had his velocity has gone up. He's not reporting any pain or discomfort. All great things. But he hasn't pitched at high-level baseball competition for 2 years. So throwing him right into the major league rotation probably isn't the smart thing to do. So maybe a month down in AAA, maybe half a month in Reading and a half a month in Lehigh. 2 starts each places, and then you go from there. So the Phillies are going to have to go out and probably find themselves a number 5 starter insurance policy until Painter is ready. So Paxton to me is maybe a little bit of a pricier 5th starter. I mean, he's not really a 5. He's more of a 3. But okay, maybe we move the rotation around to kind of change that. Maybe Suarez he's not fully back from his whatever problems he had in 2024. So I can move Ranger into that 5th spot, or move Sanchez in that 5th spot and move Paxton up in the rotation. Either or, the Phillies are in a conundrum because you could sit here and say, oh, just go out and sign a 5th starter. They're a dime a dozen. But is that really what we're asking whoever we sign to be? Because there's a possibility that person might have to be a 3, might have to be a 4, right? Because we don't know. There's question marks surrounding Ranger Suarez, and there's question marks surrounding Chris Sanchez. And, of course, with Andrew Painter, there's going to be a lot of instability, I think, in the beginning of the season with that rotation. And it's going to be interesting to see how that rotation holds up in April and May of next season. But I think going out and signing just a bona fide 5th starter is something the Phillies can't do. They may have to sign themselves a number 3 and just kind of hope for the best. That internally they don't have to use him as a 3. But right now, I think Paxton would be the best person to suit that role. If you need him as a 3, he's there. You need him as a 5, he's there. Question is going to be, of course, money. Do the Phillies can they afford to pay him for what he's going to want? So we'll have to wait and see. But that's definitely that fifth starter or that back end of the rotation problem has to be addressed through free agency. The Phillies don't have internal assets right now to just plug into the rotation. They don't. They're going to have to go out and find them. They're going to have to go out and find an asset. And it always going to take one. Just sign one pitcher and hope for the best. You have Abel, potentially, that you could move into the rotation. You'll have Painter at some point this year that hopefully breaks into the rotation. So you just need someone to kind of hold down the fort in the beginning. But you need someone who can be versatile. You need someone who can maybe be a 3 or be a 5. So the Phillies are going to have their work cut out for them this free agency period trying to find that person. We already talked in sort of nauseam about what I want to do position-wise. My 2 targets, I'm ready to move off of Alec Bohm. My 2 targets at third base are Gio Urshela and, of course, Bregman, which, that's asking for a lot. Verdugo in left and Crawford in center, or if the Phillies really want to make my dreams come true, Juan Soto plays center field. Or Juan Soto can play left and Crawford can play center. Whatever. But yeah, that would be great. And of course, I want to go out for my backup catcher. Give me James McCann or Rafael Marchand, one or the other. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. So in MattyB's world, I'm looking for what? 2 relief pitchers. I'm looking for a backup catcher. I need a left fielder and a third baseman and I need 6 free agents. I need the Phillies to deliver me 6 bona fide MLB baseball player free agents. Not David Dahl, not Whit Merrifield. No, I need 6 guys that can do the job they're being paid to do and not have to hope and pray that they can make the roster. I need 6 actual free agents. Do the Phillies do that? Do they have the pockets for that? Do they go after some of those type A free agents, or do they settle themselves for, as I said, the David Dahls and the Whit Merrifields of the world? We'll have to wait and see. But there you have it. And then that was probably the first of 1,000 times that I'll be talking about the Phillies and their free agent issues as we move into the offseason and beyond. So, yeah, there you have it. Let's do another check-in on the World Series, shall we? Let's see where we're at here. It is currently now 5-1 as the Dodgers have scored a run in the top of the 5th. And Mookie Betts drove in a run there. So Freddie Freeman is up to bat. So maybe the Dodgers come back. It's been a really good World Series. It actually has. I've enjoyed it. But with that being said, also as we kind of wrap up we're moving into the back end of the show. Let's take a little walk around the NHL scoreboards tonight as we on this Wednesday evening. A light slate. Currently, games that are ongoing. It is 5-2 the Jets over the Red Wings in the third. 3-1 Lightning over the Avalanche in the first. 1-0 the Hockey Club is beating the Flames in the first. A little bit later on tonight, it is the Knights and the Kings, and the Canucks and the Devils. Games that have gone final, or game that has gone final. It was 2-0 Islanders over, or I should say Blue Jackets over the Islanders. And there was your night in the National Hockey League. So, again, I want to remind everybody that all this stuff, all this great content is being brought to you by the great folks over here. It's a Wrap Sports, a growing grassroots Philadelphia sports network. And with that being said, we got great news coming for the program Tuesday, or I should say Monday, November 4th, will be the debut of the Wraparound with Sal G. A brand new program here on the network featuring our boy Sal, as he will come at you weekly, Mondays at 7, starting on November 4th. In Sal's brand of Philadelphia sports, he will recap the week that was in your Philadelphia sports week and provides you some of his great insight. And as he says in his little thing, ramblings and stuff. So I hope you tune in. I will be tuned in for that. Sal definitely deserves the opportunity, and I cannot wait. Monday at 7 is the debut of that show. Let's now move off to our prospect of the week. This is a segment where we will highlight a prospect player within either the Phillies, the Flyers systems throughout the seasons. We'll talk a little bit about that person and go from there. We'll also incorporate a draft target of the night A little bit later on into this process, when it comes about January, we'll start talking NHL draft. And also at maybe February, we'll start talking MLB draft as we're getting ready to kind of start covering that stuff for this year. So as of right now, though, because we're in between, really this is the end for the Phillies. There's nothing really to talk about. We've gone in nauseum over the prospects of the Phillies all season. So we're taking a break from the Phillies. So we're concentrating solely on the Flyers right now, but we will gravitate back to the Phillies probably in about mid-late January as we'll start breaking down those prospects. But your Flyers prospect of the night is Cole Knuble. That's right, Mike Knuble's prodigy, his son, the University of Notre Dame centerman, who was drafted in the 4th round last year in 2023, is a 5'11", 185-pound centerman. Really good young player. I really recommend you guys watch some Notre Dame hockey if you have the ability to. If you have ESPN Plus, you definitely can. Go ahead and watch some of these games. Cole is with the bio here. Let's read through it. A bit of deception, a nonstop movement. He's a true give-and-go player, nonstop scanning and proactive off-the-puck positioning. Knuble's a threat from everywhere in the offensive zone, a passing threat in both open ice and down low, and a scoring threat. So, again, a playmaking centerman, a little bit undersized right now for me. Would like to have him a little bit taller and a little bit heavier, but he definitely, as it says, is a nonstop mover, and that's what you want from a centerman in this day and age. You got to have a centerman that's constantly moving around. You got to have a centerman that's constantly trying to look to make a play, both with distribution and scoring. He's not a net guy, and I've watched him. He is a perimeter guy. I mean, let's face it, he is. But he is a nonstop mover, so he's going to move around. And a lot of players or a lot of teams take that for granted, and they lose him on the ice a lot. So Cole Knuble, I remember when they drafted him, I thought he went a little low. I thought he was going to make it higher. Like 4th round for me was really low for Cole Knuble. I thought he was a higher draft pick. I think I had him as a target in the 3rd round, but he went in the 4th, upper in the 4th, but still the 4th overall. And I thought the Flyers were really lucky to get him. Now, what is Cole Knuble's kind of ceiling with the Flyers? I don't know. He is currently, of course, playing for Notre Dame, and they have started their season. He is entering his 2nd year. So here's the deal. It is going to be time for Cole Knuble to make a decision at the end of this season. He is not signed. So the Flyers have to sign him before this year's draft, or he will go back into the pool. So more than likely, Knuble's time as a Flyer will start next season, at least somewhere in the system. So far through the 6 games of this year, he's got 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points, and he's a +7 for Notre Dame just 6 games into their season. So expect to see, I would not be surprised to see Cole Knuble wearing a Flyers sweater come March or April. So Cole Knuble entering his 2nd year at Notre Dame will be his last year, or he's not going to be a Flyer. He won't be under control of the Flyers if he stays for a 3rd year in Notre Dame. So there you have it. The Flyer prospect of the night is centerman Cole Knuble, the prodigy of former Flyer Mike Knuble. And there you go. Flyers prospect of the night, Cole Knuble. Like him. He's a good player. Interesting to see where he goes as a pro, though. I'm interested to see where his place on the Flyers is. Is he a day 1 guy next season? Probably not. Is he a phantom? Probably. But it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. And that's going to take me now to my final segment of the night, which is my favorite of the entire show. I love this segment. I love talking this part. This is my my card review segment where I take a card from my sports card collection and we talk about it. We go over it a little bit, chew the fat on it, and we just discuss its intrinsic value, its financial value, its sentimental value, whatever value it might have. I have cards ranging from the 70s all the way up to today. Actually, I have a couple of cards from the 50s too. So we just take a random card from the collection of over 500,000 baseball cards and sports cards. Sorry, not just baseball, but sports cards. And we just go over a card. We started the segment last week, and let's continue on with tonight's MattyB's card review. Key the music, please.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
All right, MattyB's card review segment here on the network. I went all the way back to the year 2019 for this card. That's right. This is a card that stretches way back into time, just a couple years ago. But this is a card that has entered this is part of the new group of superstar baseball players, the new group of potential Hall of Famers here early on in their careers. This is a player that obviously, when we look at his abilities so far throughout his career and what he potentially could do later on, he's earmarked already for Cooperstown, and he's only been in the league a few years. So these are the cards that you identify and you collect today. And it doesn't matter if it's a rookie card or not. You just collect this individual's cards. So let's reveal tonight's card. It is the 2019 Topps. There it is. Shohei Ohtani. That's right. The card that's considered his rookie card. It is in the base. This is the base version of the card. There's multiple versions of this card, both in Series 1 and Series 2. 2019 Topps. There's the gold, there's the shimmering, there's the refractor, there's all kinds of different variants of this card. And what I mean by variant, I mean the background, but this is the base. This was the one, this is the no frills version of his rookie card. Now, his rookie card also has multiple versions in 2019 Topps. There's this card, which is his pitcher card, and he has a hitter card, a card where he's at bat. Both those cards are featured in that set, and both of them are designated by as you can see there on the card, the rookie cup that Topps always puts on their rookie cards. And of course, as I said, this is one of those cards of one of those players that regardless of how many years they might be in the league, you just know they're headed for Cooperstown at some point. And to be able to get in on the ground floor of Ohtani now, and he's breaking records, is a smart thing to do if you're financially into this thing. But these cards also hold a lot of value when it comes to just, I like the design of the 2019 Topps. Most of these cards are like this. I just like the way this card is laid out, the way Topps did it in 2019. I think they're really nice, really smart, really colorful, really professional looking baseball cards. And I've looked on this card, this specific card. It ranges around. There's a few variants of the pricing of this card. As I said, being that this is a base card, it's not going to be as expensive as, say, the gold card. Now, the gold card, which is this same exact picture, but there's a gold shimmer in the background. There's like a gold border around it. That card is valued at about $300. As a PSA 10 is valued at $300 right now. As I said, though, that's more of a frou-frou card. This one, the base card, currently right now, I've seen it as a 10, as a PSA 10, of course. Right now, it's at around 200. It ranges between 120 and 220, depending on whether you have a PSA 9 or a PSA 10. But anything Ohtani right now is valuable. Financially, and it's just going to get more valuable the longer he sticks around. And being that this is his rookie year, of course, it's going to be very valuable. Now, Ohtani, I believe, in the 2019 Topps sets, all of them, I want to say he's featured on about 8 cards. 8 specific cards are Ohtani or Ohtani pictured. There's some cards of him. There's just some cards of him and another player. There's the Angels team card. I mean, he's on a buttload of cards in 2019 Topps. All of them are valuable. And as you get into more of the shimmers, the refractors, they obviously get more expensive as you go through it. So, but anytime you come across an Ohtani, it is a good bet to grab it and grab it right now for what it could be worth in the future. A little bit later on. So the 2019 Shohei Ohtani is tonight's card of the night, and there it is in its physical form. I always do this, and I always I sell myself on this idea. Again, these cards are raw. I have all raw cards. None of my cards are graded. But as I look at this card, at some of the factors that affect grading, sharp edges, good centering, and good borders, this is a good-looking card, and there's no creases on the front. It's a pretty clean card. I say I'm holding about a PSA 9. Again, I don't think I'll ever sit up here and tell you I'm holding a PSA 5, but there are some cards in my collection that are about a 5. But I would say this is around a PSA 9. So you're looking at, as a PSA 10, anywhere between 120 and 220. That's a PSA 9, 9.5. I could push 140 for it, probably. And again, in this market, in baseball cards and sports cards in general, it's not a science. It's not set pricing. It's a lot of negotiating back and forth. But there you have my card of the night, Shohei Ohtani from 2019 Topps, his rookie card. And that's going to be my final card of the night for the week, man. We've got to wait till next week to unveil more cards. Got 500,000. I think I've done about 6 of them. So now we got, 494,000 left to go. And God willing, I'm here for every single one of them. But we're going to actually we broke ground in basketball. We broke ground in football. Next week, we will break ground in hockey, I promise, as we'll start talking some hockey cards that I have in my collection. I have some interesting ones that I found to be very interesting, how much they were worth financially. And I have some very nostalgic hockey cards that bring back a lot of memories from my childhood. So we'll start breaking those bad boys out next week and as we move through this these segments. So this is going to lead me to my final thing. Eagles, Jacksonville. I left the Eagles for last tonight. Eagles in Jacksonville on Sunday. Supposed to have been the Sunday night game, was flexed out of that position to 4 o'clock now. The second straight week that the Eagles have been flexed. No one's talking about that much either. I think it's a great disrespect shown to the Eagles by the NFL. But you know what? You can't blame the NFL. They want to sell a product. And right now, or the last few weeks or last season and a quarter hasn't really been a very good one for the Eagles. They're not really the sexy team anymore in the NFL, but based on their performance over the last 3 weeks, they're riding a wave of success and they're riding a wave of potential renewed excellence with the football team. But we're going to see it on Sunday as they'll be tested again. Not as it might not be a test that if the Eagles come out of this game with a win, I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised. Matter of fact, I'd be disappointed if the Eagles did not win on Sunday because I have the Eagles winning this game. And they're a better team than the Jacksonville Jaguars. But as we have learned from this team over the last year and so, you can never really count on them to do that. There was a lot of positive steps taken over the last 3 weeks. And the biggest step was taken last Sunday against the Bengals. I'm still not in on, I think Jalen Hurts is being held back for whatever reason. The conundrum of why they don't throw to the middle of the field often is something that they're going to have to figure out or it's going to hurt them. The definition or defining themselves as a rushing attack team, I'm fine with that, totally fine with that, if they're able to use it. Don't forget, they're still not getting off the fast starts. They're still not scoring many points in the first half. They're averaging 9 points in the first half of games this year. So when you're a rushing attack, when you're an attack that predicates yourself on the ability to move the ball on the ground, that takes time. Typically, that type of attack really works well when you're ahead. But if you're having problems getting off to hot starts and quick starts and putting points up on the board early, you're going to find yourself behind eventually. And then you're going to abandon the rushing attack because it doesn't work to try to get you back in the game. So it's fine the way it's working, but I'm still concerned about their inability to score points early. I'm still very concerned about that. And their just inability to score any points in the first quarter, I feel is going to really come back and bite them at some point. So, but Sunday should be a good test, but a very winnable game as they will debut they'll come back with the Kelly Greens and have themselves some fun down at the Link. First home game in about 18 weeks seems. They've been gone since middle of October. So having some home games now on the schedule coming up this week against Jacksonville and then next week against Dallas will definitely be a very cool thing too. So we'll get more into the Eagles tomorrow or Friday, I should say, with Kyle Quinn as we do the Birds Blast. Put up a little graphic there because I like to promo it. Kyle will be back with me on Friday evening. Not tomorrow, a scheduling note. We'll do it tomorrow or Friday at 6. for the Birds Blast, as Kyle and me will break down and review the Bengal game, and then also talk a lot of it about the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. And folks, that's going to wrap me up. I hope you had a great week. I had a great week. I will be back on Sunday, or I'll be back on Friday with the Birds Blast. I'll be back tomorrow with the Flyers postgame, but this show won't be back till Sunday night, when, of course, our lead story will be probably the Eagles and Jaguars, and we'll recap everything that occurred over the weekend in Philadelphia sports and in sports in general. Maybe we have a World Series champion by the next time we speak on this program, and maybe we have already started MLB free agency, and maybe, just maybe, the Phillies have already signed some new players. So we can only hope and wish for that. But I want to wish you guys a pleasant evening, a pleasant mischief night, a great Halloween tomorrow and tomorrow night. Enjoy yourselves. Go out there and do some trick-or-treating. Remember, it's never too old. You're never too old to go trick-or-treating. Put on a costume and go out and knock on doors. But remember, don't knock on the doors with the lights off. But go out there and do some trick-or-treating. And if I see you stopping by my house, make sure you say hey to MattyB, as I'll be passing out candy and scaring little kids all at the same time. It is a fun night. It's one of my more fun nights of the year. Cannot wait. So I hope, and I'll be back tomorrow night with some Flyers Blues post-game action on Clear the Ice. But until we talk again, you guys have a great rest of your night, and you have yourselves an even better tomorrow.
I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I flow so pure. Everybody know I'm hot. You know when the click through. Then it's about to be a trophy.